Welcome to another edition of the NCBI Podcast. I'm June Tinsley, Head of Communications and Advocacy with NCBI. And today I have a very special guest. I have Maura Moore McCune on the line with me. And I'm very excited to hear all about her science project that she has been involved in. Very welcome, Maura, and thank you very much for taking the time to have a chat with me.
Thank you, June.
For the benefit of our listeners, you can hear that Maura is probably one of our youngest guests that we've had on the podcast. She is a third-year student based in Dublin, but I'll let her tell you all about herself. So over to you, Maura.
Okay, thank you. Hi, my name is Maura. I'm a 15-year-old student in the King's Hospital, Dublin, and I'm a visually impaired person. I was briefly introduced to coding in primary school, and as a CTYI student, I completed a course in Python. A year later, I completed a course in app design using MIT App Inventor, and I used the skills that I learned to design VIPMOD.
And Maura, just before we get into the whole VIPMOD project that you have designed, I suppose you've mentioned there that you are interested in technology from a very young age. And I suppose, can I ask you, what piece of tech device is your go-to must-have aid in order to help you get out and about in life in general?
Well, in general, I suppose this is probably very stereotypical of a 15-year-old teenager, but I always bring my phone with me whenever I'm going anywhere. I suppose it's just basically my way of communicating to my parents to let them know where I am and to be able to contact my friends and my that's really my must-have technology device.
I was expecting you to say that, in fairness, just like every other 15-year-old in the world.
Yeah.
And you're on with me today to speak explicitly about your VIPMOD project. So firstly, if you can explain, what does VIPMOD stand for, and how did the idea come about?
Okay, so VIPMOD stands for Visually Impaired Person's Moving Object Detector. And how it came about, it was really because as a visually impaired person, I would find it really hard to see oncoming vehicles such as cars or e-scooters. So this difficulty led me to design VIPMOD. Several times I've nearly been involved in a car accident as I didn't realize a car was approaching. I would usually rely on my hearing to detect any oncoming cars, but with the recent technology of electric cars, which are almost silent, I sometimes find it very difficult to know if a vehicle is approaching. So basically, VIPMOD is an app or a device that alerts the user of any nearby vehicles and calculates the distance between the user and the vehicle using both audible and visual alerts. I initially developed and tested 3 prototypes using microbits, which are pocket-sized computers. This project received a highly commended award in BT Young Scientist 2022, and I was absolutely delighted to receive this award.
I'm sure you were, definitely.
Yeah. I developed my project further into an app, which calculates the distance between the 2 users. It uses several functions such as text-to-speech, voice recognition, and dark mode, which makes it more accessible to visually impaired students, or users, sorry. The app sends visual and audio alerts to users detected in the vicinity, calculating the distance between them. I entered SciFest in May this year, and I won the Best Project Award in my region. I'm going to compete in the SciFest Nationals this November. I'm really looking forward to it.
And best of luck with it. And can I ask you, with the device you're producing, is that to detect moving objects as well as stationary, or is it just stationary objects?
Well, it's just stationary. It's just moving objects. Basically, any sort of vehicle or road user. So, you would use it if you were a pedestrian, if you were a cyclist, if you drove an e-scooter. But for me, the idea really started from detecting cars approaching.
And talk to us a little bit about the three different ways that you have used and developed the app and the device. From the research I did, I could see you used sound waves or you used magnetic fields. And talk to us a little bit about those
Yeah.
ways that you use it.
So the first prototype uses there's a sensor in the microbit that can measure the magnetic strength of an object. So basically, this prototype it uses a magnetic object which would represent a car, and then the microbit would be worn by the user, and based on the varying magnetic strength, the microbit would send an alert to the user to tell them how close the magnetic object is to you. Though obviously this prototype could not work in real life situations, as not all moving objects are magnetic.
True.
So I moved on to my second prototype, which uses radio signals. So basically, both users would wear a microbit, and the microbits are constantly sending radio signals to each other. And then the microbit is able to determine the signal strength of the radio signal it's received, and that corresponds to the distance. And then the microbit will be able to alert the user using visual and audible signals. And then to further add to the second prototype, I developed my third prototype, which uses an ultrasonic detector. So basically, an ultrasonic detector uses ultrasonic sound waves to detect the distance between it and an object. So I combined really the second prototype using radio waves with the ultrasonic detector. So the pedestrian would wear the ultrasonic detector on their shoulder, and they would be able to tell when a approaching object is coming, and a fast moving object is approaching. So they would be able to use the fast moving object, such as a car, and then the car and the pedestrian would be aware of each other. And then I developed my fourth prototype, my fourth and prototype, most developed prototype, which is the app. I used MIT App Inventor to program this, and basically it uses GPS to calculate the distance between the two users. And as I said before, it uses several functions such as text-to-speech, voice recognition, and dark mode. This makes it just more accessible to visually impaired users. So at the moment, I'm just testing my prototypes and developing them and improving them. So yeah.
And talk to us more. How are you testing them? Are you testing them on a pool of friends who are blind or vision impaired, or is it just yourself, or how are you going about testing it?
I would basically the way I would test the app, for example, is I would have my mum and my dad driving a car, and then I would volunteer, such as myself or some of my friends would have the phone. And at the way that at the stage that my app is at now, both users have to download this app for order to work. Okay. So what happens is that the pedestrian would be able to calculate the distance on the app, and I would be testing to see, first of all, how accurate the app is, as in, is it able to detect the distance between the two users accurately, and then also, is it able to send the visual and audible signals to the user.
And by audible signal, do you mean that a beep would get louder the closer the vehicle is, or something like that?
Yeah, well, sorry. I use a text-to-speech function. So literally what it does is it just says there is another user X amount of meters away. and it would
Okay.
also vibrate as well.
And what if the pedestrian is using their phone and is listening to Spotify or something while out and about? Will that compromise the functionality of the app you're developing?
Well, no, we haven't. I haven't tested it yet with a person using another app. Well, the app is in the VIPMOD app is in the background, but it would appear as a floating notification. So, and it would still like vibrate and call out the distance to you.
Okay, great. It sounds really, really innovative, to be fair, Maura, and there sounds that there's plenty of scope there for it to be expanded further, and increase the confidence of people who are blind or vision impaired to get out and about safely, to make sure they're alert to moving objects. And can I ask, what do you believe is crucial to improving the walking experience of people who are blind or vision impaired in the community?
Well, really, from my experience, many motorists and road users aren't aware of how challenging it can be for a visually impaired person to navigate urban or rural areas. So, I think if people could be made more aware of these challenges, they could improve road safety for everyone. And I also think that technology is constantly improving, and devices such as electronic walking canes are becoming more popular and more frequently used. I also think that pavements or paths should be just used for pedestrians, because a lot of the time they're used by cyclists and e-scooters.
Yes.
And I find that sometimes if they're parked on the side of the pavement, I trip over them. I'd find it really hard. You just So I think that really legislation should be just introduced to enforce this.
I agree. Yeah, and interestingly, the e-scooter legislation has only just finished going through the Oireachtas, and they didn't put in an explicit ban in to the use of e-scooters on footpaths. So it means now that the local authorities are going to have to put it into their kind of rules and regulations to enforce it, because, as you rightly say, it does genuinely compromise the safety of people who are blind or vision impaired or other pedestrians,
Yeah.
as e-scooters can't be heard, and and bicycles parked up against poles could slip down and pose a trip hazard and all those kind of things, that can compromise people's ability to get out and about safely. And do you think technology, in terms of other apps or other um, devices that you personally use, have improved in the recent past to make sure people can get about safely?
Well, yeah, I think that technology has become such a big part of everyday life that, it's bound to impact mobility for everyone. I think there's a huge amount of research being carried out in urban environments, such as smart UCU and on autonomous cars. I think this will ultimately help visually impaired people. Using recent technology such as LiDAR, urban environments can become more easily navigated by visually impaired people. Also, autonomous cars using LiDAR are able to detect any pedestrians within their vicinity. So I hope my VIPMOD app will be able to further enhance this by allowing pedestrians to detect fast-moving autonomous cars. Also, I hope that the combination of LiDAR and VIPMOD will allow visually impaired people live a safer and more independent life.
I hope so. That's certainly the aim of both your app and so many other um, developments that are out there to make sure people can feel more safe. And I suppose, do you feel autonomous cars are on the horizon, or are they still a fair bit down the line before they'll be common usage on our streets, do you reckon?
Well, um, I really feel that while there would be a little bit more to go, I feel the next 5 or 10 years, I'd say they'd be on the roads and people would be using them quite regularly. I mean, I think if I'd be right in saying this, that some road users in America would use autonomous cars or semi-autonomous cars. already. So I think, yeah, I think it's going to be, the future generation of cars really is going to be autonomous cars.
Yeah, it's certainly in the pipeline. Let's hope they're good for the environment as well.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
And
I
tell us
think
more. You mentioned earlier on about going to the competition in November. Where is that taking place?
that's taking place in the Marino Conference Centre in Dublin. I'm really looking forward to it. It's on
And
sorry?
who are the other kind of competitors in your field in this space? Do you know?
Well, there's throughout Ireland there's 16 regions, and each region holds a SciFest at college competition. So I won my region, which was TU Tala, Dublin Tala, and basically the winner of the best project award from each region goes to the national finals. So these are sorry.
I'm sure your science teacher is absolutely enthralled to see your interest in this subject. Is there much? Is there a technology and science department in your school?
Yeah, there is. There's a technology and science department in the school, and they've actually been really helpful and supportive to me throughout the course of developing my project. I really enjoy science, and I did technology as a choice subject in school, and I really enjoy it.
It's obviously where your strengths lie. It sounds as if it comes very naturally to you. Maura, fair play to you. For now, say thank you very much, Maura, for taking the time to have a chat with us about your project VIPMOD, and I hope it wins in the competition in November. Delighted to learn all about it and the progress it can give to people who are blind or vision impaired to help them navigate safely. So best of luck with it, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much, June. It's been a pleasure to talk to you.
And as always, to our listeners, if they're interested in learning more about NCBI services, please contact our info line 1800 911 250, or alternatively jump onto our website ncbi.ie.